This is the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast, where we spread awareness for men's mental health and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. New episodes drop weekly. Welcome to the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast, and I'm your host,
Thanks for the
Steve.
invite. I appreciate it.
Yeah, tonight I'm joined with David Griego, and he's here. He served 22 years in the United States Army. Thank you for your service, brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's currently an employee with the DoD. So Dave is here to share his story, and we're going to talk about purpose, identity after wearing the uniform, family, and faith. And we're just going to get into all kinds of stories about his career in the Army and also how mental health impacts those once they leave a profession like the United States Army. Dave,
Yeah.
thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And let's we'll give Mike a shout out since Mike put the chicken foot on us and gave us bad luck tonight.
Yeah, shout out to Mike, for sure.
Yeah. Well, Dave, let's kind of start your story from the beginning. Like, where'd you grow up, man? And what was your childhood like?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small little tri community in southern Arizona called Oracle, Arizona. We had one of the largest copper mines in the United States. And so that was kind of, I'm going to say cash crop, but that was a moneymaker for the families down there. So small tri community. I went to San Manuel High School in Arizona. So San Manuel, Mammoth, and Oracle is like a little tri community. Each town probably had less than 5,000 people, and there are no stoplights in either one of these three towns. They were very small, predominantly Hispanic population. Folks traveled from Tucson, Arizona to work there kind of all over. But it was a copper mine. They had both a plant and an open pits. Grew up down there. Military was nowhere in my vocabulary when I graduated from high school. But what I know I didn't want to do was spend 30 years working in the copper mines like my father and most fathers did during that time. I graduated early 1990. Well, at the start of the 1990s.
Okay, all
But
right.
I know I didn't want to do that because I worked there in the copper mines. They allowed juniors and seniors at the end of those years to work there as kind of like helpers or laborers to earn money for college. So I did both years doing that. And then I tried college right after I graduated high school. Went to Prescott, Arizona, the Yavapai, a junior college, small junior college. And I only did a semester because I figured out like I'm wasting money, just partied, blew all that money that I saved those summers. And I went back to Tucson after trying college for a semester, thinking like I knew college wasn't for me. I just wasted. I graduated the middle of my high school class, which is still the largest graduating class in that track community of 120 students.
Wow.
So it was small.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went back to Tucson. I started working for a company called Marie Callender's.
Yeah, I know them. Okay.
They were famous for their strawberry pies and their pot
Yeah.
pies. Yeah. So I worked there, and then I had a cook there that kind of taught me into because I enjoyed cooking. So I enrolled into a Pima Community College in Tucson, like culinary school. And again, that lasted about a semester. It just wasn't my school at that time. Just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just working paycheck to paycheck. Kind of living the single life. Had a roommate. Worked during the day. I used my tips as I kind of worked the whole restaurant. Server, busser, cook. And I would just, work during the day and then party in the evening times. And it finally kind of got old. My dad had served in the military probably the late 60s, early 70s, but he was lucky enough not to get selected to go to Vietnam. He
Okay.
did his whole time over in Germany.
Nice.
And I guess I
What
could be
part?
thankful. Stuttgart. Kind of like
Dude,
that.
that's awesome. I lived
Yeah,
in
and
Stuttgart.
I did some time in Boudingen and Hanau.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he served in the military. At the time, my older brother, served. He was serving in Korea at the time. He was in during the first Gulf War for that little 3-day FDX they had.
Yeah.
Although important, he
Yeah.
did the service. He was in the military at the time over in Korea. So I just happened to reach out to him and say, hey, like I'm not doing anything with my life. Just kind of living. What do you think about the military? And he said, well, if you decide to do it, like, let me know. I'll help you kind of guide you in what, because the recruiters, they're going to tell you what you need to know to
Mhm.
get you into those low density MOSs where they're needing folks, right? Infantry,
Yep.
tankers, truck drivers.
Yep.
So I went, took the ASVAB, got my results again because I wasn't a very good student, but um, I got offered the typical stuff, just like I said, tanker, truck driver, but chemical. I was a chemical specialist. That stuck out in my mind. So I called him up and I said, "Hey, what about this?" And he's like, "That's probably the best thing, like, out of all these." He was a truck driver. He was the 88 Mike. And he kind of liked it, but he's like, "Just go chemical, right? Like, it gives you more options." Sure. So yeah, so I signed up. Didn't tell any family, friends, nothing.
No
And
kidding.
it was February 9th of 2000, no, 1994. Um, I called up my mom and I said, "Hey, I'm going to the military." And she's like, "Oh," like, so started crying, blah blah, because her first son went to the Gulf War. And she's like, "Well, when are you leaving? When did you everybody together?" I said, "Man, I'm leaving in like half hour. I'm headed to the bus now." I wasn't
Dang.
really close with her, but close enough
Okay.
to let her know. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I had my best friend, my brother at the time, not my biological brother, but the person I felt closer to. He took me to the bus station, dropped me off, and I was off to Fort McClellan, Alabama for chemical OSIT training, one station unit training in Fort McClellan, Alabama in 1994.
Where'd you go to basic training at?
Same place.
Oh, okay.
So it
Okay.
was, like I said, it was one station unit training. So we did basic training at Fort McClellan. And then from basic training, they just handed you off to another set of drill sergeants for AIT.
Gotcha.
So I
Okay.
went from like February to July, all down in Fort McClellan, in Anniston, Alabama.
I was born in, Enterprise at Fort Rucker.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
so
Yeah.
and I lived in Stuttgart as a kid, so,
Oh, sweet.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
my dad was stationed over there, so yeah, he was
Yeah.
Army. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
funny, man.
So I did really well. I was surprised because I really took to the military during basic training, did really well. AIT did really well. I graduated, honor graduate from the AIT.
Nice, man.
And so then my first duty station was Fort Hood, Texas.
Okay.
Gotta love Fort Hood.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it was just timing. I showed up there to Fort Hood and signed in, but I got assigned to the 3 Corps chemical office, but as one of the command drivers for the command. And so I really didn't go to a chemical unit and kind of learn what, went to school for. I was
Mhm.
a command driver from the 3-star general down to 06's there at 3 Corps on Fort Hood for the 3 years I was there.
Wow.
So it was kind of unique. It was different. Although I was assigned to a chemical office, it was all senior enlisted at the time. I'm a brand new private, no, nothing, no mosquito wings, nothing showing up there. But yeah, so I drove for the command for 3 Corps for 3 years. And then that's when I got married. And the plan was to do 3 years, get out, and figure out what I'm going to do with life.
Mhm.
But then I got married, and it wasn't just about me anymore at that time. It was about me and my spouse. So it was literally back then, you could re-enlist up to the day you're getting out of the military. I know times have changed now, but I had a excuse me, I had an O6 that I drove for, a chemical officer, and he says, "Hey, like, you're married now. You got to give it a little bit more time to kind of fill it out." And so he said, and I said, "Well, all they wanted to send me to was a place called Johnson Atoll." So it was 300 miles off the coast of Hawaii. I believe that's how far it was. But basically, it was a floating island, kind of like 3 Mile Island, where they stored chemical agents.
Wow.
And so it was a hardship tour. And I said, "Hey, that's the only place that they want to send me to. I just got married. I'm gonna get out. They don't want to. They're not looking to send me anywhere else." And so the '06, the colonel's like, "Well, give me till lunchtime. You guys go have lunch and come back." So we came back and he's like, "Hey, if I can get you guys an assignment to Germany, will you re-enlist?" And I looked at my wife. We didn't really have any time. She's like, "Sure, let's do it." Because she had never left. She never left Arizona. She never left that small little town, hometown. And so right then and there in his office, he had the re-enlistment guys actually sitting there waiting. We re-enlisted
Wow.
and we went to Germany to what we call Swingen Budingen, Budingen, Germany. It was the home of 1 Cav. And there was a chemical unit there. At the time, they were 25th Chemical Company. But the day after I arrived, they reflagged to 25th Chemical Company. and I served 3 years there, and I made it all the way from at the time when I showed up there, I was a specialist promotable. I made E5. I left there after 3 years, and, I was promotable E5. But while I was there, I had some really good NCOs, had a really great time, a lot of great mentors. I left there, as the 1st Armored Division Junior Leader of the Year,
Nice.
which was really cool. That's what
Yeah.
experience. And from there, we came to Fort Carson, Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah,
What'd you think of Germany, like the culture, and what was your take on going off post and kinda hanging out in
yeah,
town and stuff?
yeah, absolutely. So we took full advantage of Germany. My son was born there, which I didn't
Okay.
fail to mention, but my son was there for his first year of life. He was there, but we loved. So anytime I wasn't out training, the only kind of peacekeeping deployment I had during that time was to Albania. But other than that, and going to the field, your regular going to the field type stuff, because at that time there was no war going on. It was kind of just
Yeah.
peaceful time. But the only, I guess, scary kind of part that my wife had at the time had to deal with was when Osama bin Laden had put a bounty on any American soldiers. So we were kind of still in some sort of force protection,
Okay,
pulling
yeah.
guard all the time at the gates and everything like that. But anytime we were able to get off post, we loved it. We did everything kind of twice, winter, summer, right? You experienced
Mhm.
both. Fish, Paris, Amsterdam. Like
Nice.
we were never kind of homestead. We got out.
Yeah.
We got out and
Yeah.
enjoyed life. Yeah,
That's
we loved
awesome,
it in
man.
Germany. Yeah,
It's a cool country. Yeah, it's a
it
really
is.
cool
It
country.
really is. Yeah, absolutely. So
I actually had a German, canine officer on the show a couple weeks ago. It was pretty cool.
really,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was pretty
it was
neat.
awesome.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
the sad part about it is doing 22 years. That was the only time I had the opportunity to go there because chemical corps is small. So once you start making rank and going up, you get very bottlenecked,
Okay.
and didn't never had the opportunity to go back. But eventually, I'll make it back there uh, as a guest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Fort Carson your last duty station then?
No.
Oh,
So, well, when I retired, yes, I retired out of Fort Carson in 2015. So from
okay.
Germany, from Fort Hood to Germany, from Germany to Fort Carson. At Fort Carson, I was with 329 Field Artillery as their NBC NCO in the S3 shop, kind of staff work. But my job there was to train all of the batteries on chemical stuff.
Mhm.
Really, you're gonna dress up and go into the gas chamber. That fun stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So did actually it was probably my shortest tour my first time at Carson. We only did 18 months because then I was up for reenlistment again. And reenlisted to go to Hawaii. I
Nice.
figure at that time my wife, I had drug her out of Arizona. She never left home. We went to Germany. She was away from home, and I was like, you know what? Like, where would you like to go? And so I picked Hawaii, and so we went to Hawaii for 2 years.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, so that was really good there.
What was that like?
So Hawaii was good. Military wise, it was good because I got to go to I went up to division at that level, so I still stayed at the senior levels, even though I was only a staff sergeant at the time. And my job there was part of the logistics team, and we ran the chemical defense warehouse where we
Okay.
stored all the chemical equipment for the island of Hawaii for 25th Infantry Division. And units were coming out there. We do training for them, issue them all their equipment. So that was really good. And then I had the opportunity to go be a squad leader in a chemical company, which is really good because that was my first kind of taste of really being after I left Germany, being back with soldiers again. But this time I wasn't just part of the squad. I led the squad. So that was really good. Of course, from Hawaii, we went to Fort Polk. You gotta love Fort Polk, Louisiana, doing JC down there, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's funny.
So that was good. But then Hawaii just it really wasn't for us because I had my son and my daughter at the time. So now I have two kids at this time.
Mhm.
And they were just too small to really enjoy the beach and all the ocean. We spent a lot of
Mhm.
time at like the lagoons, and it was really expensive there. Even though you're military, you get that discount. But it was a good 2 year experience in life. Hawaii was good because every time somebody comes to visit you, you redo all the same tourist
Oh,
sites.
yeah. Yeah,
You know how
I'm
many times
sure.
I had to go? The first time I did Pearl Harbor, really emotional, really good. The first time you go, but then
Yeah.
every time family came up, that's where they wanted to go. One of the sites I want to see. I spend so much time on the bench just so they can go see it because, like, I
Yeah.
don't wanna relive all that again, right? So
Right, right, yeah.
but Hawaii was good. It was good, but, it wasn't for us.
you take
Yeah,
up
so from
surfing while you're out there?
I'm sorry?
Did you take up surfing while you're in
No,
Hawaii?
actually, I got into motorcycle riding.
Oh, cool.
I
Okay.
bought myself a crotch rocket and,
Nice.
got together with a group of other veterans, and every weekend you're on a rock, so you
Yeah.
just you can't go anywhere
Right,
except
right.
in a circle.
That's funny.
So we rode a lot in Hawaii, and then, of course, you get to know the locals. We got to know a lot of locals, so we spent a lot of time barbecuing, hanging out with friends. It was really good. Hawaii, in that sense, Hawaii was good, but as for the family, we became close, but it just wasn't for us. Our kids are too small.
Yeah.
At the time, my wife, she wasn't a water person, so she never really like put her feet in the water. But you know, it was enjoyable. It was time to go after 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where'd
we I'm
where'd you
sorry.
end up after where'd you end up after,
Yeah, so
Hawaii?
there we went the total different spectrum. We went to Fort Bliss, Texas.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so from Hawaii to Fort Bliss, Texas, which is good because then it was we were closer to Arizona, which is only a
Mhm.
4-hour trip.
Yeah.
So if I was gone out to the field, we went, I was with 55288. And so when I showed up to 55288, Air Defense Artillery at that time, they were just returning from Iraq.
Okay.
And so if you remember Jessica Lynch,
Yeah.
the whole story with Jessica
Yep.
Lynch, so that's the unit I went to.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so they were just coming out of their 30-day reset cycle, coming back,
Mm.
and so there was still a whole lot of that stuff going on with Jessica Lynch and that maintenance unit,
Yeah.
the 502nd Maintenance Company out of 55288, and so they were just overcoming all that sort of stuff. So it was really, um, it was kind of just a lull phase for that battalion. And so, probably it took them about a year to kind of get reset and kind of overcome a lot of that before they started training again. So we did a lot of training. I spent a lot of time with those guys down in Yuma, Arizona, with the Marines with their ADA units and out in the field with those guys. Yeah. So the good thing about that was that my wife at the time, she could just pack up the kids and drive 4 hours home and spend time with her family, or they'd come up. So Fort Bliss was actually one of our better duty stations, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
sure it was.
yeah,
Yeah.
it really was because we got to get closer with her family, who she had got away from. And at that time, I got promoted from staff sergeant to sergeant first class,
Okay.
E7.
Nice.
And then it was time to go because I wasn't authorized at that unit any longer after you get promoted.
Mhm.
From there, we went to Fort Bliss, Texas, which then started my time with the technical escort units. So technical escort units in the Chemical Corps, it was a brand new unit. They were starting up in Fort Lewis, Washington, called 110th Technical Escort Battalion. And what those are, they got a headquarters company and two other companies, and they got four teams on there. So they're 14-man teams. You have 11 chemical soldiers and three EOD techs.
Wow, okay.
You got a you got a master sergeant, a captain, a lieutenant, three sergeant first class, one of them which being EOD, and then the rest were all staff sergeant below. And basically, we took care of anything from west of the Mississippi, any homeland sort of missions, and then we had the opportunity to train up a unit and take them, the first ones out of that unit, to deploy to Iraq. And we spent it's about 6.5 months over in Iraq doing stuff. But Fort Lewis is probably my favorite duty station because of how busy we were doing homeland defense stuff. So, like I was saying, best duty station, got with the tech escort units. I started out there to help them start the battalion up. We were the second company to start up, and so I was an ops sergeant for a year, kind of getting the three other teams started up. But then after that first year, I convinced the sergeant major and the colonel, like, hey, like I'm a leader, like I get it, the rank I'm at, you need operations NCOs, but like I did my time. It's time to go down to the teams. But before I did that, I was going through a program, the Audie Murphy, to be part of the Audie Murphy Club on Fort Lewis. And so
Okay.
that was a process. It took about 6 months to kind of study up and get through all the stuff. And eventually, I became an Audie Murphy member. They're on Fort Carson. I don't know how much you know about the Audie Murphy program within the Army, but the top 2% of all NCOs across the Army are part of the Sergeant Audie Murphy Club.
Is that medal you have
So
on
you
in that
seen that
picture?
medal that I had in my uniform? Yeah. So
Yeah.
that is the Audie
Okay.
Murphy medal. And
Wow,
again, it's
man,
the
that's badass.
top 2%. of NCOs. You have to be at least be an E5 to E7 when you go through. Yeah, E7. I think about that for a second. But yeah, so it is really it's grueling. And once you when you accomplish it, some people can make it through their first time. Some people take 2 to 3 times. I was fortunate enough that I was able to get through on my first try. But I mean, you got to do a PP test. You got to qualify with your weapons. You got to go through a bunch of different scenario stations, and then a couple boards, and then the final board you sit down with the core sergeant major and a bunch of sergeant majors on there, and they just grill you for hours. And so got through that, and so I made a deal with the sergeant major that if I passed that, he would send me down to the teams, and so I
Nice.
did. So that was a challenge, right? But I did
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
made it down to the teams, and then as soon as I got to the teams, it takes about another year to get your certification to go through to be part of the team because you got to you go through a little bit more advanced chemical stuff. So they sent us down to Dugway Proving Grounds where you go through your chem bio, and you go down there with all those scientists down there and learn chem bio, and they teach you all about a little bit more advanced chem bio and how to detect clandestine labs, how they're built, how they're made. So when you go out on a mission, you're able to identify precursors and all that sort of stuff. And it was so the chemical guys are doing that. The EOD guys are going through their certification. Disarm. I mean, they already know how to disarm bombs, and they're just some badass guys. Excuse my language.
Oh, you're good.
But
You're good.
yeah, so but once they do their side of the house, we do our side of the house, and then it comes together. And they have a really good setup down in Dugway Proving Grounds where they have civilians that build these clandestine labs and underground bunkers. And so we go in our chem suits, fully chemmed up, um, and not the typical mop suit that you hear about, right? But these are specialized chem suits, breathing, fully concealed. And you go down and you just kind of bit by piece take apart these chemical labs, whether it's an HME lab or a chemical lab, and then you get certified. And then so as soon as we got certified as a team, then we were sent to Iraq to start doing some remediation, some sensitive site exploitation, because we knew that when we deployed from there, as the whole country knew, that Saddam had chemical weapons, right? We
Mhm.
knew that, right? And we knew that he used them on his own people at times, never on any American soldiers. But what was happening over in Iraq at the time, um, who was it? General Petraeus was there at the time, and we had a lot of MP units and infantry units coming across, like weapons caches and munition caches. But what they were doing was they were moving this stuff, not realizing that they were chemical because they weren't really marked very well, like on the
Oh,
munition.
okay.
And Marine units too. And so as they were moving some of these munitions, soldiers were what we call getting bit, right? They were getting
Mm,
contaminated, you know. And so General Petraeus had made a standing order that no munitions would be moved. We're going to call in the tech escort unit. So the cool thing for our unit was we had a dedicated Osprey and a Blackhawk to fly
nice.
and our equipment into these sites. So we stayed busy that whole time. So we were doing a lot of those missions, and some missions that should take like a couple hours. Go and identify it. The EOD guys would get in there. We'd clear out the unit, and the EOD guys would just blow that stuff up.
Mhm.
And we'd sample before and after to make sure the chemicals are destroyed. So we stayed pretty busy doing that. But one of the unique things was we had to. So we were there in 2006, and we had a Marine unit call us up. So the military was kind of doing a buyback program where they would tell civilians, "Hey, if you kind of rat out where these chemical munitions are, or whatever, then if we found it to be true, then you'd get paid a certain amount of money, whatever they decide to do." Well, they had turned in. Well, we knew that Saddam had chemical school in their labs in one place in Fallujah. So right after
Mm,
they had turned in this site where they said, "Hey, we know where these chemicals are." So we flew half the team out there. So I took half the team out there. We split us up, and we linked up with some Marine infantry unit and went out there. And sure enough, there was this big container um, where we did some testing on it, and it showed that there was different parts of it were different readings for different sort of chemicals. So like, hey, there's something out here. Well, what should have turned into probably like a week sort of mission, it turned into like 3 months.
man.
Yeah, so we brought out had a quarantine. We got two infantry units assigned to a Marine infantry unit assigned to us for our protection. And every day we're out there just with Seabees. We brought in some Navy
Oh,
and
wow.
just digging this container out. It turned out to it looked like one of those gas tankers, right? This large
Wow, yeah.
and it was so at the end of it, when we finally got all cleared out, we flew in 12 civilians from the States that specialized in drilling into large chemical containers. So, because it was so hot, it was in the middle of summer, we decided once we got ready, we put this shelter over it and everything to contain it just in case there was chemicals and it spilled. We, at midnight, we drilled into the civilians drilled into it. And then I took another team member with me and we dressed out in level A suits and we went out and did sampling on it. We took
Damn.
samples of it. It was straight concrete. What happened was they just poured a bunch of precursors into this huge um, container, and then they filled it with cement. And so basically, it was one side of it. If you would have had one precursor to it, it would have been a certain chemical. On this side, if you'd added a certain chemical, it would have been a different type of chemical. I don't want to name those out here, but it could have been.
Yeah.
So basically, we took samples there. And then we had the lieutenant colonel that was there on site. So it was him and I were in charge. And he was in constant contact that night with General Petraeus and their team. And they flew out two Blackhawks, got escorted, dropped off those samples, and they were immediately flown to the DIA lab and tested it. And that was a big thing for us. Was that big mission? The operation was called, of all funny things, the name was called Operation Dragon Egg. Because in the chemical core, the dragon represents because the chemical core first started out with flame filled expedient, like flamethrowers
Yeah,
back in
yeah.
the day, right? World
Wow.
War II. So that's how the chemical core kind of got its name, the dragon, right? Breathing fire.
Yeah.
So it kind of just stuck, and we kind of named it Dragon's Egg. But it turned out to be a big nothing, but it was something because it told us like, hey, where they dumped a lot of their stuff to kind of get rid of that when the war started. So we did that was a big mission for us. But on top of that, we did a bunch of other small missions. And for a chemical soldier, that's what you want to be doing. You don't want to be stuck in a room just handing out masks and testing stuff in
Mhm.
here and there. That's kind of it's the highlight of a chemical soldier's job was to be part of a tech escort unit. And I was
Yeah.
fortunate enough to do that for 10 years.
Well, especially being in a place like Fallujah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's probably one of the most dangerous places you could have been, right?
It was terrible because one time we were on site and we were doing a remediation. I mean, we're dressed out level A, and all of a sudden we heard this big explosion off in the background. You could see the smoke come up, and the platoon leader and the platoon sergeant for the Marines were like, hey, we need you all to stop. We might get called out, so we might have to pack up. What happened was, and I don't know if you remember this, but it was at one of the voting sites outside of Fallujah that
Yeah.
is a female in a vest. She came up there,
Mhm.
and of course, we didn't have the FET teams, the female engagement teams at that time. So we had
Yeah.
nobody to really kind of pat down the females, and so she showed up and she exploded this vest there at the voting center. I
Man.
think it killed the colonel. Sergeant major was injured. Another guy lose both his legs. It was crazy. Yeah, that was. We were pretty
Jeez.
close to that when that happened. So I think it was shortly after that is when the female engagement teams kind of got kicked off.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, so
Man,
Fallujah
that's
was a trip.
intense.
It was a short. We did tech escort units only did 6 month deployments at that time. So once we finished up, Iraq went back to Fort Lewis, and had the opportunity when I got to Fort Lewis. I became the Sergeant Audie Murphy Club president for Fort Lewis. Kind of did a lot of
Nice.
stuff. Dual hatted doing that, doing the tech escort thing. But then I was really good friends with our branch manager that did assignments. And so he's like, hey, you just got back from Iraq. Like, I got an assignment for you to take a knee. So I got sent to NORAD from there. So I came
No
back,
kidding. Huh.
sent back to Colorado Springs.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was another unique assignment I got to do.
Yeah, I bet, man.
Yeah.
For those of you that, don't know, that's where, they track Santa, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
NORAD, yeah,
That's
that's what I
a big
thought.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. So NORAD, I had the opportunity to work both in the mountain and on Peterson Space Force Base now, but it was just Peterson Air Force
yeah.
Base at that time. Yes.
Okay, nice.
Tracking Santa is a big thing. So I actually volunteered while I was there to be part of that. And so I spoke to the kids from Johannesburg, South Africa. And
Nice,
Santa's flying
dude.
over right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We shoulda had you on around Christmas time, man. We
Yeah.
coulda
I could have been. I
coulda
probably could have did this from the NORAD, track and stand up station right there where they're doing it all. That'd have been cool. Maybe we'll do
Yeah, it
something next
would.
year when we do that.
Yeah, that'd be sick,
Yeah, that'd
man.
be
That'd be
sick. Yeah, for
awesome.
sure. But the
Yeah,
big,
you gotta wear a Santa suit.
for sure, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yeah,
Maybe this
yeah.
will turn a little bit grayer.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, but the cool thing about that time, two big things happened. I got there right. If you remember that shooting down in Fort Hood, where
Yep.
Major Hussein had shot the soldiers down there. So I had got there. So I was working the command center when that took place, and that was a
Wow.
pretty hectic
Okay.
time, because that was something big during that time. Never really kind of happened here in the U.S. at that
Right.
time. So yeah. So I was there working on the command center. I worked on what we call the land domain, basically, and we're just getting all sorts of reports and everything going on. So that was pretty hectic time. I got to be there when that happened. And of course I got there just after 9/11. Um, yeah, it just had happened. So just I kind of missed that portion working there. Because as a matter of fact, I was at Fort Bliss from Fort Carson at a school battle staff course when that actually happened. So I was at Fort Bliss when they locked down everything in the U.S. Obviously, Um, so I didn't get to see that at NORAD, but that was kind of the big thing that happened during my first time there at NORAD. But I only stayed there 2 years at NORAD because I felt I was ready to get back with soldiers. I got promoted to E8 during that time, so I was a young master sergeant there. But I had a unique opportunity. I also ran the Joint Color Guard for NORAD, which we had all five
Wow.
services plus Canadians part of our Joint Color Guard. And so did that for I was there for 2 years doing that. Also working the command center, and then I got kind of to be pretty close with the deputy commanding officer there. He was Lieutenant General Grass, um, and he came up to me one day. We're out on a trip, and he's like, "Hey, do you have any aspiration to be a first sergeant?" And I said, That's really all I want to do. When I do my
Mhm.
time up, he's like, "Well, I know at the time he was Colonel Mingus, but now just retired as a 4-star General Mingus. He was and Command Sergeant Major Sasser." And he's like, "I know them. They need first sergeants. So would you like to go for an interview and see what they'd be willing to take you?" I said, "Absolutely." So I went over,
Nice.
did kind of talk to Star Major, and he was willing to take me on as a chemical soldier to be part of the CAV, which is a way different career field than I'm used to working with infantry and CAV guys. I was a chemical guy.
Mhm.
It just wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it wasn't heard of, but it wasn't like you have a chemical soldier be leading cavalry soldiers, infantry. But it was more the logistic unit.
Okay.
Um, and so, yeah, he signed a letter to send me over from Peterson Air Force Base, which is in Colorado Springs, to back to Fort Carson. And so I went over to Fort Carson. I was part of 361 Cavalry Squadron. I had the Delta Company, which was the forward support company. So we had
Nice.
all of the fuelers, the truck drivers, the mechanics, the cooks, commo. So that's kind of that was my first experience of being a first sergeant. Went over with the Cavalry Squadron, and sometimes you watch what you ask for. I guess is the best way to say this, because I say that because from there, we trained up, did again JRTC, NTC, and then we deployed to Afghanistan. We deployed
Oh,
to.
okay.
I had guys all over RC East. So I had guys from mainly out of Jalalabad, out of JBAD,
Mm.
which I'm
Mhm.
sure you've heard of. But
Yep.
I was stationed just across the street on a small little fob called Finley Shield. That's where
Okay.
our squadron was, and my company headquarters. And yeah, so that's kind of the best worst experience of my life was that deployment to Afghanistan.
Do you wanna get into that at
Yeah,
all, or
yeah, absolutely. So we were there. We were ripping out with 25th ID out of Hawaii. I think it was 25th ID, or were they? Either way, we're doing our rip. We'd been there only 45 days. And it was April 15th, 2012. It was just shortly after lunch. I could clearly remember this. I always took my lunch and I went down to my room at that time because then I could send an email to the family, eat my lunch,
Mhm.
and just kind of that's my decompression time to get away from soldiers.
Right,
That's
right.
time. And I remember it was It was about 1,200 hours. Walked back up into my office. We had those connexes. We had connexes stacked up on top of each other. We turned them into off. Well, they had turned them into offices. We just kind of took them over. So we were kind of up on the second floor, and it was like 12:53. I have a tattoo here on my arm. It's a broken clock.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so today I'll never forget. So I'm sitting there talking with my ops NCO, Sergeant Campbell, and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, you just hear this big old boom, and the Connex shifted, and it kind of teetered because it shifted so much, it's like it was going to fall off. And
Yeah.
we both looked at each other and we said, "Holy f!" Right? So we threw on our gear, and we look outside, and there's just this big cloud of smoke. And so we're on the east side of our fob. There was a road down there. We'd always talked about with Sergeant and the other two first sergeants that were on there, like we need to block this off, right? Because cars can get too close to the wall, and that's right next to where all the
Mhm.
soldiers live at. Um, and so, but we never got around to it because we didn't want to immediately start changing things with the old unit outgoing coming in. Like, oh, we don't like the way you have the security set up, so we'll kind of wait. Bad idea.
Mhm.
But Fort Finley Shield was also a place where it's kind of a recreational spot that the back in the day the Russians used to excuse me, where they used to bring the Afghans in and murder them. Yeah,
Wow.
so they had this big pool. It was like 20 foot deep. They had it cleaned out, and that's what they do it down in there. But it
Damn.
was kind of it had a garden on there. It had a small kind of a two-story hotel on there. And I also thought it was kind of an R&R place for the Russians at the time.
Hmm.
Years later, right? We are. Um, but yeah, so they hit us on the east side where the soldiers lived at, threw on our gear, and I heard that my commander had went down there, and the only reason, so I gathered all the unit up at the motor pool, and I told the platoon sergeant, "Hey, get accountability. I'm going to grab 3 soldiers, and we're going to go down to check on our commander." Well, as we were crossing, we're doing some clearing going around the east side. The infantry unit that was stationed with us, they're coming up from the south side over to the explosion, and we're coming across a small road right in front of my barracks room, and I had seen my commander. He'd gotten shot right through the calf, and he was down. So as we are getting ready to cross the road, there was an Afghan firing at us that did get over the wall. Like 4 of them got over the wall. First guy we took
Damn.
out, no problem. The other guys were pinned down, but as we were crossing the road coming down to go rescue our commander, I just happened to turn to my left and look up over the wall. And at that point, like 4 or 5 grenades you just see come flying over
Oh,
the wall. And you only
fuck.
have about 5 seconds with the grenade to go off. And so I was always told coming up to the military, the kill radius for a grenade is like 50 meters. We were at
Mhm.
25 meters of 4 to 5 grenades going off. It was
Damn,
pretty
dude.
brutal. All I remember was a flash, this white flash going off. And then I was told the 3 of us were thrown about 15 feet and slammed into the barracks and into these Connex wall where the soldiers
Damn.
lived at. All I remember was at that time, I don't know how long I was knocked out or whatever, but I remember getting up, grabbing my 2 soldiers and said, "You guys okay?" And I said, "That's gonna effing hurt."
Yeah.
Adrenaline's going though.
Right.
Firefights going off. We wound up eliminating 3 of the guys. One of them was captured. But then when I told my guys, got them all back together, I said, "Hey, you guys get here, get accountability. You got to report this. I'm going to go down and check on the commander." Well, at that time, we get down there, take off my gear, see the commander's fine. They got him wrapped up. He's sitting down on a chair. And then when I took all my gear off, I just like the adrenaline started to come down. And
Mhm.
so, as you know, adrenaline, a pretty amazing thing. It can keep you
Yeah.
thinking going forever. But once it came off, well, then I think I had passed out again. I wake up, they have me on a gurney on they're evaluating me and stuff like that. And then I had lost feeling from my left side of my body. I couldn't feel anything. And I think that was obviously from the explosion, but the adrenaline just had us going.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so myself with my commander, a lieutenant from the infantry company, and a staff sergeant from the National Guard unit that we were ripping out with who had got shot in the chest. We all got um, medevac from Finley Shields over to JBAD. And so when I got to JBAD and they rushed me in, they did all my checks, and everything. I still have no feelings in any of my body. Um, the only thing I could do was the EOD guy that I was deployed with the tech escort team, Mike Gerard, First Sergeant Gerard, he was on JBAD. And so I told the nurse, another First Sergeant, Charlie Med First Sergeant came over, um, and was checking on me, hey, talking to me, hey, First Sergeant, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna be okay. And I was like, hey, I need you to go get First Sergeant Gerard. Um, and so he ran over to the EOD compound, got First Sergeant Gerard, came over there to stand by my side. Well, the cool thing about EOD guys, they have a satellite phone because
Mhm.
during an attack, they shut down all communication. It goes black, right? Because they don't want nobody
Right.
calling home, doing anything. Well, First Sergeant Gerald brought his satellite phone with him. I was like, Mike, I said, Mike, I gotta call home. I don't know what's going on. I gotta call. So I got my probably the stupidest thing I could do too, right? You're not thinking at that time,
Yeah.
right? Um, Mike, he got a. I could remember the number for whatever reason. I remember the number. He called. He's like, "Hey, Tracy," my wife's name at the time, and he's like, "Hey, this is Mike." And she told me all she can remember is like, "Why is Mike calling me? He's deployed."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, I got David here. He wants to talk to you." And so I got on the phone, and that's when I said, "Hey, look, we got attacked. I got blown up, and I have no feeling in my body. I'm getting ready to be medevac out of here. I just want to call and tell you, so you don't hear shit on the news or whatever."
Yeah.
And she said all she heard was that, and all she could hear was my heart monitor going beep, beep, beep. And
Mm.
that's all she heard,
Damn,
right?
dude.
And so I was like, call you when I can. Hung up the phone, and then they got us all on the flight, and we flew from there to Bagram Air Force Base. And from there, immediately went into the emergency room, got checked out again, went into CAT scan, MRI, all that sort of stuff. And then I got stuck into the TBI ward for a week while I was there. And so while I was there, the only thing I could think of, well, one, I was so like my head was just so out of it, right? Like, and then I didn't know the full extent of my injuries. I had some breathing
Mhm.
issues and some other stuff going on, but I needed to get, of course, any good leader wants to get back with their soldiers. After a week of being there and finally passing the test that I had to pass, barely, I failed them like 3 times with it. I don't know the acronym. I know the acronym, don't know what it stands for. It's called NAM. And basically, it's to test your cognitive functions. I
Okay.
had failed it 3 times. If I had failed it one more time, I was going to go to Germany to Landstuhl up in Germany. That was kind of the protocol.
Mm.
I passed, and so I was supposed to stay there at the TBI clinic like another week. But I convinced this young E5 that I was there, and I was like, I got to get back with my soldiers. He was part of our unit. He was
Mhm.
kind of our
Oh, okay.
station there. And so he's like, and he kind of at first he's like, first on, I can't do that. And I was like, look, dude, I got to get back with my guys. So he got me on the helicopter like at the end of that week, and I went back to my guys for like, see, that happened in April until June. But at that time when I'm back with my guys, like I just knew something wasn't right. Um, at that time too, I was communicating with the docs, and of course there's a lot of stuff in between here, right? But I
Mhm.
communicated. Well, they had found something wrong with my left lung from the explosion because my whole left side of
Man.
my plates and everything were just crushed.
Yeah.
And so I had no choice. I had to come back to the States because they were concerned with my left lung. But at the time I really didn't know how bad the TBI was, right?
Mhm.
Other than I had a TBI. So when I get back, I flew all the way back to Carson to get looked at
Oh,
there,
wow.
and then I wound up having surgery on my left lung.
No kidding.
Yeah, so I had surgery on my left lung, and that was in June of 2012. And then at the end of July, again, I had recovered for those 2 months, and I told the rear D captain, the rear detachment commander, he was a captain, and I said, "Look, I got to get back. Any way you get me back?" And he said, "Well, the docs released you," and I was like, "I'll get it done." So at the end of May, at the end of July, before the end of July, I went back to Afghanistan.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, I went
You're
back
like
to
Iron Man.
I went back to Afghanistan. When I got back there by the time I got back to Jalalabad, ran into the sergeant major, the brigade sergeant major, and General Colonel Mingus at the time. Got called to the sergeant major's office, and I got my ass handed to me for coming back.
I bet you did.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he's like, you know what? You're here. He's like, you're gonna go back to unit, but you will not go on a convoys. You will not do anything. And I had to accept that. So I went back in early. Now this is the first week in August. Went back with my guys and finished out the deployment. Thankfully, we only lost one guy during that time from August to November. Um, but I kind of just I was what we call a fob it. I just stayed on the fob and planned the missions and our guys executed them. But I didn't leave the fob, but still knew something was wrong with my head. I wasn't right. I knew that. I couldn't
Mhm.
stand in the formation. I couldn't stand, when we do our ceremonies and so on, because I was just got so like vertigo feeling, right? Like I wanted to
Wow.
fall over and shit. But I didn't know because I didn't go get properly treated, right? I had to get back
Yeah.
to my guys. So when we redeployed back to Fort Carson, you do the reverse SRP and stuff like that, where you get go through all the medical stuff and get checked. Took 30 days leave. We get our 30 days leave, and coming back, I got assigned to is the Soldier Readiness Center. Still first sergeant, but I was patient there. And they finally determined, like, hey, like you need surgery on your left foot. Like I had bones crushed on my left foot that I just kind of ignored.
Wow.
I thought it was just like, I don't know. I hurt my foot, whatever. But I
Yeah.
needed surgery there, which they could handle. But then with the TBI, there was this new unit or hospital unit at Walter Reed there in Bethesda called the NICO, National Intrepid Center of
Mhm.
Excellence. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
heard of that yet.
I have. Yeah, I
Okay,
have.
yeah. So I got assigned to there. Again, I had to make a hard decision for the family. Do we PCS there as a family because the military was willing to do that, or do we stay there? Because at that time now my kids are in high school. We always said coming up in our marriage that when the kids reach high school age, we weren't going to move anymore.
Yeah.
Wanted them to build some friends. We wanted them to build roots in their life so they can go off to college, off to life with friends. So I made the hard decision by saying, "You guys are going to stay here, and I'll go to Walter Reed
Mm.
myself." So
Wow.
I got put into the Fisher House um, for 45 days. I was in there and did intensive inpatient care, so that the NICO can determine like what's wrong with me. And I got assigned. You kind of go in groups, and I got assigned there just luck of the draw or whatever. I was assigned with two Navy SEALs who had just come back from deployment. And maybe it's because of my rank. I don't know. I was a senior guy,
Yeah.
right? And there was a bunch of junior guys there, but I got assigned with them. So we went through our training together. And it was probably the second week. I guess I realized how bad, I guess at this point now, PTSD is. I had an episode where we're in one of the classes and they're trying to talk about overcoming obstacles and, making your way back. But at that time, it was still so new. TBI was still so new. Um, the videos they showed us was videos of Michael Jordan, how he failed early in high school basketball. He didn't make the team and how he overcame that obstacle. I
Mhm.
flipped out in the class. I'm like, why the F are you showing this stuff? Like, do you see grenades being thrown in the basketball court? Does Michael Jordan having to overcome that shit? Like, I really kind of had a bad episode. I can remember this now, talking about it now, just clear as day. One of the operators there kind of like came, sat next to me, and kind of was like just kind of put his arm on my shoulder to hold me down because I was really just kind of yelling at this civilian guy. Um, and they're like, "Yeah, you've got some issues, man." And so, but to me, like comparing military guys to what these
You
athletes overcome, there's night and day,
you
right?
can't.
You can't do
Yeah.
that. But that's all they. And I get it now, right? Like that's what they had to go off of. I'm sure they're a whole lot
Yeah.
better now. But yeah, so my 45 days turned into being a year. So I had a few surgeries there. I had my first back fusion there. L5 S1 got fused. I had 5 surgeries on my left foot, and then my left wrist. And then I got assigned to another tech escort unit, the original tech escort unit, 22nd Kin Battalion up in Aberdeen, Maryland. And then when I got assigned there, I became an outpatient where then I'd travel down to Bethesda or I'd go to Fort Eustis where they could find me care that I would go
Mhm.
TDY to those places. So I did that for a year. And then I was in a better place in the sense of where I was like asking you, like, hey, I need to go back home now. Like, I need to get back to Fort Carson to go home, or need to bring my family up here. Like, I can't
Yeah.
do this. It's
Yeah.
been a year.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. And at that time,
Yeah.
I was living in they found they turned like this hotel on Aberdeen into like small studio apartments,
Mm.
but it was just an extra large bathroom. It was
Yeah.
a hotel room with like they turned the closet into a kitchenette, so it was really bad. They did fly my wife up there, and she got up there, and when she first seen the little studio, she just started crying because like I can't believe you're staying here, going through the stuff we're going. But I tell you, during that time was some of the roughest time because I was alone. I
Yeah.
started drinking. I
I
mean, I
bet,
was
man.
drinking a bottle of Grey Goose like every day. It was bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was also started riding,
Wow.
putting Phillies on there. And I'll have to share with you some of the writing. I'll lean you
Yeah.
some of my writing.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, one of the writings that kind of went for a little while, it kind of was going around the NICO and a lot of the other hospitals, and I came out to speak to someone, but it was called Bottom of the Bottle.
Wow.
Yeah. And so basically, it starts off with talking about like, hey, I need to be back in Afghanistan where I have things under control. I need to be with my soldiers, like the action where it's at, or really, am I just talking? Am I at the bottom of the bottle? And then it's God talking about like working out, and I'd work out till I was numb, and my body's still numb, or am I just at the bottom of the bottle?
Huh.
Right. So like, yeah, I'll have to send that to you.
You should, yeah. Well, Dave, let me ask you, like, you're in this little apartment and you're away from your family, and now you're drinking. What what were they doing for your mental health outside of all the treatments you were going through for
Yeah.
the physical stuff? Like, were they even addressing that, or what was that protocol like?
Yeah. So they were. So they were sending me to a counselor, but
Okay.
as any other leader, like you try to hide that, right? Like you don't tell full truth, right? Like you're gonna talk about what you need to do to get by.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it really became about just talking about like, my family, but it really wasn't addressing any of my issues. I was just talking about like how I was lonely now. I need to be with my family, but I was hiding the drinking. Hey, first sergeant, are you drinking? Socially, I have a drink here and there, but really it meant that I had a bottle here and there.
Did you develop any, like, close friendships? And did you feel
So
like you had anybody you could talk to?
nope.
No?
Other than that
Oh,
counselor,
wow.
twice a week, I had nobody really up there. I was living in the studio, and at that time too, when I was assigned to 22nd, I became the rear like the acting sergeant major because the sergeant major she had some surgeries. I was a senior master sergeant, so I got assigned as it's kind of the acting sergeant major, first sergeant for the headquarters company, and so I was doing that, and I was masking all the personal stuff I had going on in the evening time. But
Damn,
I
man.
guess the way I dealt with it at the time, I got into cycling, road
Oh, okay,
cycling,
yeah. Yeah.
and that was kind of my therapy. Like I'd get on the bike and I'd just go ride for hours on end, and that's what helped me at the time to kind of get through was cycling. Because you only talk to a counselor once or twice a week. You have an hour.
Right.
And if you don't build a rapport with that counselor, you just it takes a long time.
Mhm.
So I never really fully opened up and shared anything. So just I took up cycling as part of something that keep me physically fit, and then it's just you just kind of have a conversation with yourself on the bike. And that's the way I dealt with it my time there in Aberdeen. But then when I finally did get a compassionate reassignment to go back to Fort Carson, um, I got assigned to 71st EOD unit um, up in their headquarters in their staff section. And Walter Reed, the NICO, helped find me care down in Colorado Springs. And I really, again, it was just hard to find somebody to connect with right away. And
Mhm.
and I guess in my mind at that time, my first question to any counselor, the two or three counselors that I tried was, "What sort of military experience do you have, or combat experience do you have?" And as soon as they said none, I said, "Then I ain't got shit to talk to you about. I've
Yeah.
got absolutely nothing to talk to you about. You can ask me questions all day, but I'm not going to share shit with you because you can't share my experiences." And I had this block, right?
Mhm.
And that's I didn't have help. What really helped
Yeah.
me realize that I needed help was one night in bed with my wife, and we were sleeping. I was having nightmares, and I just had this really bad nightmare. Thought I was back in Afghanistan, and I was on top of my wife, and I was choking her,
Oh,
and
shit.
she was kicking and punching. She finally hit me hard enough in the face, which I don't blame her. Um, I should feel bad for her still to this day, but she woke me up out of this. And I said, at that point, I said, you know what? I need some help. I
Yeah.
need some help. And so I went to the VA. I was still active duty, but they couldn't find me nothing. So I had somebody turn me on to the VA, and I found this counselor, Carolyn Hughes. She was a trauma therapist, and she had experience with combat. She was her and her team were all retired military. So I started going to her, but before I really got in with her, what also really helped that incident with my wife at the time opened my eyes. But I was still drinking pretty heavily. And the one thing that turned my life around was I was drinking again, really angry with the kids, the wife. Like we had to relearn to live together after being gone that time.
I'm sure, yeah.
And again, having a bad episode, just started drinking again. Well, stupidly, I grabbed a bottle of vodka and jumped in the car and drove 3 hours south to Raton Pass, Raton, New Mexico. And it's a pass. Pulled into this overlook, and I said, "This is it. I'm done. I'm done."
Take your
Yeah,
time.
I remember hearing this voice. Hey, throw the keys out. Throw the keys out. I just kept hearing this over and over again. Throw the keys out. I guess I threw the keys out.
Yeah.
Woke up the next day and found the keys. Drove home, and I said, I need help. So I really dedicated myself to going to therapy. I need to fix myself. I want to save my marriage. My kids don't need to see this. They've seen too much stuff. So I'm going to fast forward a lot. So it's a couple years. I'm in Taylor Hughes, doing really well. Then I'm on this bike ride up in Denver. So one thing I got into was using cycling, connecting with other veterans. And I'm on this
Mhm.
bike ride with two other veterans, and we're riding through these trails in Denver. And I'm talking to this guy. His name's Donald Malloy. He was a captain in 10th Group on Fort Carson, but he was retired. He was out of the military. And I was like, Donald, I got to share a story with you, man. And I told him about talking to Raton Pass. I'm ready to drive off. And I said, I kept hearing this voice in my head, throw the keys out the window, throw the keys out the window. He looked at me and he said, David, that was me. Uh,
Wow.
had no idea it was him. He never called me afterwards.
No
Not
kidding.
that he didn't want to, but he didn't want me to rehash anything. Like he was thinking to me, like,
Wow.
if I call him and tell him this, it's gonna bring up stuff. He kept it to himself. He said, one day I was gonna tell you, but I did want to
Damn.
make sure. Well, we had connected a few times, but he never told me that was him until I told him the
Hmm.
story on a bike ride that one day, and he's like, David, that was me. And so,
Damn, dude.
we stopped, we broke down, we hugged. But since then, I've kept up counseling. Um, then I retired in 2015. Things were a little bit better, but my marriage was a little rocky. Well, I had filed for divorce during that time and then pulled it back. We went to some family counseling, and then I started working for Wounded Warrior Project after I retired in July of 2015. I knew I
Okay.
wanted to stay connected with veterans,
Mhm.
um, but I wanted really nothing to do with working for the government.
Right, right.
22 years, right? Like
It's
I
a
needed a break.
long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time.
And I honestly, I only talked about that Afghan deployment, but there was others. That was the worst one, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I went to work for Wounded Warrior Project, and it's a way to connect with veterans and still stay, give back to them and help them
Mhm.
out, share my experiences, and I also helped start up a peer support group where it was just me. I went to training, and then it was me leading these support groups for veterans. There was no doctors, no clinicians, nothing. It was
Mhm.
just Dave and veterans. And we could talk about like-minded stuff, like what they're going through with the VA, what's going on at their home. And I could share my experience that I went through that I just talked about with them and how did I overcome that. And just really reassure them that like, hey, you've got to recognize in yourself that you need counseling. You know, um, at this time I hadn't even brought God into this yet, right? I hadn't reconnected with him.
I've been sitting on that one. I've
Yeah,
been waiting to ask you about that
yeah,
one.
I hadn't reconnected with him at all, you know, but did I ask for help? I sure did, but I didn't give myself to him, but I wanted
Right.
his help. And
Yeah.
I shared all this life experience with them, which then let them talk to me and open up
Mhm.
because I'm not a doctor. I'm just a veteran that went through the same stuff they've probably been through. And so I was with Wounded Warrior Project for 3 years, and then we parted ways. It just didn't work out, and so I left. And during that time, I had again filed for divorce. But then I pulled that back and we We tried again, second time now, you know. But then I took a year off and I did absolutely nothing, but ride my bike, all over the US. And then I got into mountain biking, because I needed that adrenaline rush.
Mhm.
And at the time, I was a pretty decent road cyclist, but let me try now, on on dirt roads. So got
Yeah,
into
yeah,
that, and I continued to do that, and I connected with Red, White, and Blue, and I led some of their riding groups. And then my marriage did fail. Ultimately we got a divorce. But we got divorced because it takes two to get into a marriage. It takes two to get out, right? No blame,
yeah.
but I will take a lot of the blame because of the stuff I went through in the military. I gave more of my life to the military than I did my family. Like I said, I went back to Afghanistan after, having lung surgery, and they didn't
Mhm.
want me to, but, I did. And so I'll take a blunt of the blame for that. But our marriage ended. But what really ended it for me was we got into a really bad argument, and she looked me dead in the eye and said, "I wish you would just gotten killed in Afghanistan."
Oh, man.
And I said, "You know what? I don't know how we overcome that. You can apologize all you want, but it's out there." And I always
Yeah,
believe when you're angry, you say truth. You speak truth.
yeah,
And it was out there. And so we never really overcame that, plus a lot of other stuff. So we split our ways. But when we split, I've been divorced now 4 years. And I took the first 2 years to reconnect with myself, figure out who David is. And
good.
although I don't go to church and I don't preach to others, but I
Mhm.
really connected, I believe, with God.
Good,
I pray to
good.
him every night. I thank him every morning. Um, and I think it's really helped me become the person I am today, more calm, more chill,
Yeah,
not only for myself, but if I ever decide to meet somebody, hopefully I'm prepared to give them a different version of who I was in the past. And
you
so,
already are.
yeah,
You already are a different person.
yeah. And so, but I'll tell you, during that time, I connected with Mike's wife, Sarah, when we worked at Winnie Water Project, and she she had really became somebody I could depend on. She was there during some of the darkest PTSD moments. And then she introduced me to Mike, and Mike was a runner. He's been in the police department, fire department, PJ, all that
Mhm.
sort of stuff. And connected with Mike, and him and he would run, I would ride my bike, and we just had long conversations. So
Nice,
if it
man.
really wasn't for those two, and God, you know, I wouldn't be here talking to you today.
Dave, I want you to listen to me for a second. I'm glad you're here,
Yeah,
and
thank you.
I'm glad that you found Mike and Sarah and the Lord, but man, I'm glad you're here because your life has great purpose.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
And I know I've been through, not comparing anything, but I've been through 2 divorces. The last one was nasty, and when you hear shit like that,
Yeah,
it makes you carry shame, and it's hard to overcome it. You are an evolved man, and I'm glad you're here.
yeah,
Mike's glad you're here.
yeah.
Sarah's we're all glad you're here,
Yeah,
man.
thank you. I am too, because I think I could share. I do, and I do share my story with a lot of veterans. And somebody I don't want to leave out of this is Mike Gerard. Going back to First Sergeant Gerard, he's a retired ELD soldier. He started up a moonshine distillery 11 years
But yeah,
ago when we came back from Afghanistan. He
I
actually,
saw the picture.
yeah,
Yeah,
he actually made,
okay.
yeah, the guy you
Yeah.
see in the picture. So he
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
made
yeah.
his very first batch of moonshine out of a disarmed IED in Afghanistan.
Oh, that's
And
cool. That's awesome.
he got an A&W root beer from the DFAC, and that was his very first batch in Afghanistan. He made his very first batch over there, and then he came back and opened up a business. And so not only Mike and Sarah are a big part of why I'm here, but so is he. And he got
Mhm.
me when I got divorced. He called me up and said, "Hey, you're not gonna sit at home. You're not gonna do that shit again." He's like, You're gonna come here. And you're gonna help me. You're gonna learn about moonshine, and you're gonna help me run my shows." And
Yeah.
so I do. If it wasn't for him and his wife getting me out of the house and doing that sort of stuff, then again, you'd be in a dark place. But I helped him with run his shows. I know all about Colorado beet sugar moonshine, and it's a veteran-owned company, and he does everything he can for veterans. He actually, it's called Bombs to Booze. It's on
Okay.
Amazon.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And actually, the filmmakers, it was just supposed to be a 15-minute like introduction about Mike and Moonshine, but it turned into a 45-minute kind of documentary. and it's
Yeah.
on Amazon Prime, and it actually won gold medal at a small film festival.
Wow, that's really
Yes, it's
cool.
called Bombs to Booze. And again, a big shout out to him too because he was a big help of mine. Just like Sarah and Mike's. You know,
Yeah,
of course, it had to do with alcohol, but I'm nowhere anywhere near that again. I think I'm just a whole new person, but I've become really close with my son, my daughter, because
good,
of it.
good.
I'd love to still be close, not close, but still friends with my ex-wife.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work out, but it is what it is. You
Yeah.
Life will go on, and but here I am today talking to you.
How old are your kids now?
Yeah, so my son just turned 28, and my
Okay,
daughter's 26. So they were,
nice.
you know, they went through this back in 2012, 13, 14, till today with me, and they're successful. My son is a general manager in the Foot Locker Corporation. As a matter of fact, he's
Nice.
he's over in LA this week for the NBA All-Star. He got selected up
Cool.
with that, so he's doing that. And
Yeah.
my daughter is going through her background. She works for the 911 in Colorado Springs, and she's actually hopefully starting the police academy in this summer.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Very cool.
yeah,
That's awesome,
yeah.
man.
So they're doing really well. So I think things happen for a reason. I truly believe
Yeah.
God does stuff for a reason, and if divorce was the path that, I had to take to reconnect me with him
Mhm,
and to be this more calm um person is and share my story with others and help out, um,
mhm.
then then it is what it is, right? He has a plan for us all.
We have something in common because that's what took me finally surrendering and then finding the courage to share my testimony was going through
Yeah,
a divorce as a result of my drinking. And, so I can relate to that piece with, kinda seeing God in that picture. Because if I woulda stayed in that last marriage I had, I don't believe I'd be hosting a podcast or sharing my story
yeah,
and the stuff that I've gone through. So, it's crazy how God works like that
yeah,
because the world needs men like you, Dave, to go out and help a group, especially in the veteran community
yeah,
that may not reach out for help as easy as a civilian or may not feel as comfortable about seeking someone to talk to about their mental health or the shit they've been through.
yeah.
And so, man, you are you I don't know what you've got planned in the future, but you definitely have you've got a platform, man. You really do.
Yeah, I think, I talk with Sarah and now Mike. We talk a lot about what does the future look like. I think the future, short term, probably next 2 years, is to continue to work at Northcom where I work at.
Mhm.
Although my kids, I just told you, 28 and 26, I really just want to make sure they're doing well in life. And I think the
Yeah.
plan is to move up here to Virginia, um,
Nice.
be here with Sarah and Mike. We've been talking with some other friends of theirs up here about buying some property and kind of
Mhm.
doing this equine therapy. Mike doing his tactical stuff, all for veterans, and just
Mhm.
using kind of all of our experience to help veterans out, to help people understand the veteran life.
Yeah.
And so that's the short term 2 year plan. But at the end of the day, I want to retire from working for the government, and just live life, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Enjoy life. I don't know if I'll ever get married again. Right now it's only been 4 years, so I say I'm never getting married
Mhm.
again. It was this last first one was too traumatic.
Yeah.
But I did meet a really great lady, but she lived up in Fort Collins. I lived in Colorado
Oh,
Springs, so
okay.
it was about 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
It lasted for a year, but then I kind of put the kibosh on it because it was just too far. She had her teenage son, but
Mhm.
we still stay in contact with friends. If things work out in 3 years when he graduates high school, then so be it. But right now, just I'm just trying to live life. Go to
Yeah.
work. I have a service dog. I don't know if this is human back here. Let me see. Hey, Radar. You see that?
Oh,
Radar?
nice. Hey, buddy.
Yeah. So Radar and I, it's just him and I.
That's
I
awesome.
cycle as much
Yeah.
as I can.
Yeah.
I get out. When people ask me through prior connections and stuff, hey, can you come talk to this veteran or link up with this veteran? I 100%. I'll drop what I'm doing to go talk to any veteran, or anyone.
Mhm.
But the ultimate goal is to just get up in the morning. No, I don't really have anything to do, but you know, whatever the day makes it. Whatever God has in
Yeah.
plan for me, He'll guide the path and He'll lead me there. Let me, if I can, I'm gonna take a second. I got it saved here. I'm gonna read it to you. It's
Okay.
you know who Roy Benavides is, right? Master Sergeant Roy Benavides.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, so he has a quote that he has. Let me get to it. As a matter of fact, it's right here on the email. Hopefully, I don't lose you. Okay, so this quote I live by. I wish I could find a scripture, and I will, and maybe with your help, I could find one.
I've got one for us
Yeah,
tonight, don't
but I'm
worry.
gonna read this to you. And you probably heard this before, but I live by this, and I got it tattooed right here on my chest.
Okay.
And so it says, "For those who have fought for it, life has a special flavor the protected will never know. You have never lived till you almost died. It is us veterans that pray for peace most of all, especially the wounded, 'cause we have to suffer the wounds of war." And so, to me, a little dark maybe, but to me, it just says that although we're suffering these wounds of war and we have to live with that, it doesn't have to define us.
Right.
It really doesn't have to define us. And I made that a purpose in my life to not let the 12 surgeries that I had, two back surgeries. I've just had one last in 24. Now my L4 to S1 is fused. I've had 12 surgeries, but I don't let that define me because, as you know, you've talked with folks and you've seen veterans that let that define them. They just go down a bad path, right? They get unhealthy,
Yeah.
they die early. But I've made a life choice where I will, like I said, let God lead where I'm going to go to. Again, I'm not super religious, but I do believe in God and I know He has a path for me.
Mhm.
But what that meaning means to me is that, don't let what my past define who I am today. Continue to pedal on. I have another poem I wrote called One Pedal at a Time, and that's how I live life, one pedal at a time,
Mhm.
and just keep going. As long as you keep moving forward, life has a lot to offer still. And I knew
Yeah.
that if I took my life, those folks, my family have to live with what I left them. But by choosing not to, they can see who the man that I still am.
God's not done with you, Dave. He's not. And I wanna say this just hearing you talk a little bit. There's a difference in believing and following and loving God and then being religious.
Sure.
And it took me years to understand that, like years, dude, because I lived in this cloak of shame and I was afraid of God. But you can find God everywhere.
Yeah.
Just because you go to a building every Sunday. And I think church is a good thing if you find one that fits you. But I I used to be a trail runner and I had more talks with God in the woods than I ever did in church.
Yes.
And I mean, I think it's really cool to hear you say you're putting him in your life because a lot of people that follow kind of the old school legalistic church doctrine, they don't do that, man. They go check a box, but they look on the outside, they look like what society thinks you're supposed to look like as a churchgoer.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I want to do with this platform is show people Christ is for everybody. It doesn't matter what, like you just nailed it, man. Right, what you said about the past. It doesn't matter what your past is. Doesn't matter what you've done. Jesus loves you. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. He's always going to be there.
Yeah. 1000%. And, with my head injury, I think I have some short term memory loss, some long term, like it's all combined in there.
Hmm.
But when I finally, asked God for help to get me on this path, I remember back when I was a young kid, there was a nun when I was going through catechism, Catholic school. When I was going
Okay.
through, she said I had stole some gum when I was a little kid, and
Yeah.
I went to confession and stuff. But I had a nun pull me to the side and said, "Hey, you don't have to come to church and talk to a priest and ask for forgiveness. You can be walking down the street and ask God for forgiveness, and He hears you." And I always remember that to this day because I
Yeah.
don't go to church. I don't go to a physical church, but I talk to him every day. I talk to
That's
him
awesome,
every
man.
morning, every evening. It may be the same prayer, and I even have a conversation with him saying, "God, I don't know if I know if I how to pray. I don't, but I know you're hearing me." And I may say the same thing every night, but I'm talking to you, and I ask for your help to to, to
Yeah.
think of a different prayer. Which he doesn't care.
That
He just
that's
cares
what he
that you
wants,
talk to him.
dude. He just wants you to
He
talk
just
to
wants you to
him.
talk
I
to me,
mean,
and it may be the same prayer asking for to look after everybody and help help everybody find some rest and peace tonight so that we're blessed with another day tomorrow is how I end that prayer. But I
Yeah,
remember what she said, you don't have to go to church to ask God for help. And that
you
has
don't.
stuck with
She
me
was
my whole
right.
life.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, she was a good woman.
Yeah,
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 that's
she definitely
awesome.
was. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you're doing the right thing,
yeah,
man. Like you are,
yeah,
and
thank you.
I that's incredible
Yeah.
to hear
And
that.
like I told
That's
you and
really
like you
cool.
just said, you talk to God on your runs. I talked to God, especially when I was going through my divorce and afterwards.
Yeah.
We have many miles on the bike together, you know?
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure,
so,
man.
and I would say, right now life is good, I'm just, still trying to figure it out, I've got a really good job. I love what I do. I love the people I work with, where I work at, the small family I have around me, my 2 kids, Sarah, Mike, and then Mike Gerard and his wife is really my
Mhm.
family, is my little circle. And right now I don't think I need more, Eventually, hopefully I meet somebody, but,
Yeah.
when God says it's time, he'll put that person in my path.
That's right, he will. Would you like to share how people can learn more about you? So if they wanna connect with you, if other veterans wanna
Absolutely.
reach out maybe and talk to you, do you wanna let folks know where they can
Yeah,
learn more
I
about you?
mean, like you talking about, like, I have my Instagram. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
Instagram, yeah.
As a matter of fact, give me a sec. I don't get on there. I do get on there to follow you, to follow Mike, and
Yeah.
to post all my rides and stuff.
Mike's an expert. He's not an expert at setting up for you to do the podcast, but he's an expert on
Oh yeah,
Instagram.
exactly. So yeah, so my Instagram is Griego D07, Griego D07 on Instagram. I don't really do Facebook a lot, although it's connected to my Facebook. So you
Okay,
can
yeah.
find me there. I know you'll tag this on there, so
Yep,
they could also
yep,
see my name on there. So yeah,
definitely.
I would I'm open. I'm an open book when it comes to bitch. And obviously, as you see, I still get emotional talking about things. Gosh, dude, if this would have been a few years ago, I would have never made my way through this. You know,
Yeah,
because it is tough. It's emotional, but
it is.
it's made me who I am today. It's made me a stronger person, as it has all of the
Yeah.
veterans. But yeah, if anybody ever reached out to me, stranger, I would drop anything or I'd make time for them because we all need help. Five
Mhm.
years from now, I may still need some help, right? And so reach out to you, reach out to Mike, reach out to new
Yeah,
connections.
yeah. Anytime, man. Anytime.
It's all about the veteran, first responder community, just being there for each
Mhm.
other, and making sure we all
Well,
make it to another day.
yeah, and this is a journey,
Yeah,
it's not a destination, so it's gonna be for me too, man, just because 'cause I'm sitting on the other side of you, it doesn't mean I have it all figured out, trust me, and if you went back and watched my testimony a couple weeks ago, I fell apart. I mean, it's not I'm not gonna say that it gets easier to share your story, but it you kinda have to still sit in some of those parts of it,
yeah,
but I think it's important because it shows people that it's okay to grow, but also it's okay to have some vulnerability because nobody is bulletproof. I mean, at the end of the day, things are
yeah,
gonna be hard to experience and to speak about and to go
yeah,
through. So
absolutely,
it's a way to bond.
it
It's a
is.
way to bond with
And
people.
I used to have a
Yeah.
mentality, being a senior military, enlisted military guy, like if you showed vulnerability and you cried like you're weak, gosh,
Oh, yeah.
I could say times I'm a crybaby, right?
Well, me too,
And it,
man.
it,
Me
and
too.
it doesn't show weakness. Actually, I believe it shows strength, right? 'Cause if you can
It
show your
does.
vulnerability, then it shows somebody else that you can be vulnerable too, like, right?
Mhm.
And it's only
100%.
the path to helping you get better.
Yeah,
Well,
100%, man.
for sure.
You've got a hell of a story, man. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
absolutely.
sharing it
Thank you for
tonight.
allowing me to share and
Yeah,
connecting with you.
totally.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Tell your boy I went and met with the merch company yesterday. When I get some shirts made, I'll send you guys some shirts. I'm
Yeah,
I'm working on that right now. So that's the ball is rolling as we speak. So
yeah.
hopefully I can get that knocked out in a couple of weeks.
I'd
But
love to help represent and spread the word. And
thanks,
actually,
man.
too,
Yeah.
if we can work it out. So every year, Mike Gerard at the distillery, they run a 0K. And what we
Okay.
mean by that is you've heard of other people doing a 5K or 10K for veterans mental health, right? You go run
Yeah.
this and that. So he calls it a 0K. And what he does is he brings in folks like yourself in person. But what I'm saying is we can try to work it out where we can have you on camera if we can't get you out here.
Okay.
Have something like
Yeah.
this and kind of share what you do. Um,
Yeah.
bring in other veteran mental health organizations and we do a full day of just so we don't do a run, we do a marathon of information
Cool. Yeah, that'd be
and just
fun, man.
sharing.
Where is that out?
We
Out
do
in
that at
Colorado?
they're in Colorado Springs.
Okay.
We actually have a buddy who has a barn, and we just turned that barn into a big stage, bring in people go up and talk about their organization and what they do to help
Nice.
veterans and just sharing information. Bring in veterans
Yeah.
and get all this information, and we just share that.
Mhm.
I say we
That'd
because
be
I don't
awesome.
know, but um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, he does
I'd
that
love
once
to.
a year. And so once we start bring that back up, I'm gonna connect you. Maybe I even get
Okay,
Mike
cool.
to do this as well. We'll do a
Yeah, you
podcast with Mike
should. You should.
and talk about his experience because he's been through a lot of stuff too.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and so he does that once a year. So once we get that spun up, I'll stay connected with you anyway. But
Yeah,
when that
100%, man.
comes up,
100%.
I'll share his stuff to get it out there so you can see it, and maybe we can get you up on the screen and share what you're trying to do as well.
Oh, I'll fly out there, man. I wanna come. I've never been to
Yeah,
Colorado, so that'd be
we'll
cool.
fly you out here and
Uh,
shit. I'll pay for you to come out and
no, you ain't gotta do that, man.
and
You ain't gotta do that.
talk about your thing and set up a small table with some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a
Yeah.
really cool thing. But yeah, I try to really stay connected. I use cycling to do that now. Just still try to help veterans get out of the couch and get out of the house and breathe a breath of fresh air and help them out.
Well, if you're open to it, I have a really good friend that runs an organization called Battle Forge Foundation in Utah, and they're new, but they're a nonprofit, and they are for veterans and first responders, and it's all of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
That might be a good resource for you too, because they're doing some stuff with Grunt Styles nonprofit and folks like that.
yeah, connect us
Um,
up. Yeah,
hell yeah, dude. That's
once
what this show is all about, man. Is
yeah,
networking and helping people.
yeah, and definitely we're gonna stay connected because one thing I want to share, as we get ready to wrap stuff up, is in 2029, myself and two other veterans, we're planning to do a ride across America.
Wow, that's
So
awesome,
bike ride
man.
3,300 miles across America. We're gonna try to do it in 30 days, and we're gonna
Damn.
be looking for sponsors, for help, for whatever.
Yeah,
And yeah, if
you
once we
got one
start,
right here, man. I'll sponsor you.
yeah, once we get going, maybe we can get back on and do this again and kind of throw a pitch
Yeah.
out for you again, throw a pitch out for a ride. But yeah, I'll stay definitely
Cool.
gonna stay connected. But that's one big thing.
Yeah.
That's our big um 2029 project is to three veterans on a bike riding across America.
That's awesome, man. That's badass.
Yeah,
Well, hey, I wanna share a scripture, and
yeah,
if
please,
then I'm gonna close this with a prayer, okay?
absolutely.
All right, so this is from Philippians chapter 4, verse 13. Christ is the one who gives me the strength I need to do whatever I must do. My take on that is I would not have worked on my mental health or evolved or stayed sober without Jesus Christ. And so my goal with this platform is to not only spread awareness for mental health, but also the gospel of Jesus Christ, because he is our Lord and Savior.
Absolutely. And I 100% believe that. Like I said, for the fifth time today, it's like, I talk to him daily.
Yeah,
You
me
know,
too, man. I talk to him all the time. I have to.
Yeah, yeah, nothing.
I mean, yeah.
You
You would
know,
you would you would laugh if you saw how many times I prayed before we get on air every night. I'm walking around the house praying.
you know, and sometimes I'll be sitting down, and I find myself sometimes, watch a spiritual, emotional movie so that I can sit there and talk to him about, like, why does this only happen in the movies, knowing that it doesn't? But I talk to him, it's like, why can't this happen to me in real life?
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
and I'll start laughing, thinking he's laughing. Well, he is laughing with me, right? Like, I'm sure he is.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
always say to
That's good.
myself,
That's cool. That's awesome you have such a good relationship with him though, man,
yeah,
because
you have
it
to.
it it yeah, you do. And more people need to hear
Yeah,
that. And that's what's
absolutely.
really cool about you sharing your story. They need to hear that.
Yeah, I picture him sitting on a cloud when I call for him and ask for him. He's like, "Oh man, this knucklehead again. What do you got
Yeah.
for me?"
Yeah, that's
But yeah,
awesome. That's
it's
funny.
good. But yeah, I appreciate you again. Thanks so much for having me on. This has been awesome. Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this evening. Thank you for bringing Brother Dave on tonight and just giving him the courage to share his testimony. Lord, I pray that other veterans that are watching this and listening to this will hear Dave's story and just know that they are loved, that their life has meaning and it has value, and that help is available, and that there are resources for everyone. Lord, I pray that you will bless Dave, that you will continue to be with him, fill him with your Holy Spirit, and just help him to continue to have the courage to share his story because it's so powerful and so many of us need to hear his story. Thank you for Mike also for making this connection. Thank you for this platform, Lord, to share your gospel and also to spread awareness for men's mental health. It's in your mighty name that I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for checking out the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast. Make sure you check this episode out and send it to your friends so they can hear Dave's inspiring story. It's on here on YouTube. It'll be on Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music. And make sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an episode. I drop new episodes every Wednesday and every Thursday. Dave, this has been fun, man. I really appreciate you, dude. And like I said before, I'm glad you're with us, man. I really am.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, and God bless you.